What's up, gang, gang? Do a little Sunday night streaming here. We're going to get started in a second. Lion the Witch in the Wardrobe. That was the new one from Rooks G, The Warning. We're going to play us in. Play us in. What's that mean, play us in? This is Rooks G with New Age of the Shadow Moon. We're going to take this one and get live here. We do it live. Shouts out to the members out there and everyone in the chat. Give it a second for people to come in. Make sure you hit that like, share. You can support me through the links. If you're not a member and you're listening to this, please hit subscribe. We do it live. We always do it live. This is for your pleasure or your leisure. C.S. Lewis Narnian series. About to go live in just a minute. Thank you to the new members right there. Thanks you two for joining. Thank you to Evan for that $20 super chat through PayPal. Thank you to Jason. Thank you to the real John Connor. Taylor Gillespie, thank you so much. Thank you to Adam. Keep them rolling in, folks. You help support the operation. Shouts out to Mello right there. There's Banhammer. Shouts out to Banhammer, Jason, Mello. Let's go. Oh. Dirty. That's Rooks G, R-O-O-X-G. Let's go. Hey, shouts out to Sean right there. Shouts out to Sean from the Lurking Corner. We love our lurkers. Lurkers, special beings. PBR Street Gang. Go. Coach G knows how to crescendo, that's for sure. Oh. Sick tracks from Rooks G. That was New Age of the Shadow Moon. And we also had The Warning right there from Rooks G. After the stream, make sure you go over to his channel, ROXG. Tell him who sent you. Tell him BLA sent you. Shouts out to everybody out there. Yo, introduced. Oh, yo, Sean, thank you. You introduced Claire from Canada to us. Thank you so much. Really appreciate that. Hey, so you've been around a long time. Hey, everybody, tonight, I want to wish you well on this long weekend. I don't know what it is in England. Is it a bank holiday in England? It might be. But speaking of England, shouts out to my friend, my good friend, old friend, Laura Sanchez that I reconnected with last night, who is in England, one of my old drama school friends. Good to talk to her. If she's watching right now, I hope so. Love you out there. Hey, also, give a special shout out to my friend Baxter, who was with us on the last stream. The other night's riff stream on Lawrence of Arabia. It was kind of we didn't really talk much about Lawrence of Arabia. We did a lot of riffing, and that one is now in members if you want to check that out. There's 2 streams up there with Baxter, and he's a wealth of information. Shouts out to Maddie because he got his book, Digital Finance, so you can check out Baxter's book. All right, so tonight we're covering C.S. Lewis. This is part 2 of our Narnia series on the Chronicles of Narnia. And we've actually covered 4 C.S. Lewis books now, because we've done the Screw Tape Letters, and we've also covered the Silver Chair, which we'll be covering again. The last time we started off with The Magician's Nephew. This time we're talking The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I'll be doing a special unboxing later on of the complete Chronicles of Narnia set that I just got. And the old heads might enjoy that one. Especially people like Jason, who's an artist, will enjoy that one for the artwork in that old set. This one is about deep time, deep magic, and of course, we're covering the Pevensie children, and of course, this is the chronicle of Peter, Edmund, Susan, and Lucy, who make their way into the wonderful world of Narnia. So this is the book that most people know in terms of the Chronicles from C.S. Lewis. I'll be talking about, again, I'll be going through this book, Narnian, which is the life and imagination of C.S. Lewis, and of course, The World According to Narnia. This is a really good book. When I'm not really recommending books a lot because I'm here covering them for you, but I would recommend this one. It's pretty good. It's a pretty concise and clearly written World According to Narnia, Christian meaning in C.S. Lewis's beloved Chronicles by Jonathan Rogers. It's a good book and provides me some good insight and explication for these books. So I'll be using that as a kind of guide. And I've got, as part of the series, don't forget, I'll be covering all of the Narnia books, and then we'll get into Till We Have Faces, which was a sponsored stream, and then we'll get into the Space Trilogy and a bunch of stuff. Also, before we begin, please make sure that you are around tomorrow night, because I think this is on Jay and Jamie's channel, or on Jay's channel. I'll be covering the movie The Surfer with Jay and Jamie. That'll be a lot of fun. And we've got some other stuff coming up. I'll tell you a special announcement later on in the stream, which is a big deal for me, and I think it's a pretty big deal for us, and it involves some of our friends that we know. So that will be cool. Banhammer says, I really like the old BBC miniseries. And yes, and a lot of people have offered that. I've had some correspondence with people, and some people dropping some messages to me in my email, madmaximalism with 2 X's at gmail.com. Tell me what you think. Really, also, that's extra. I would like you to tell me what you think in the comments afterwards. We got that all out of the way now. So, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is, of course, the classic C.S. Lewis book. It is the beginning of the Chronicles of Narnia. We started off with The Magician's Nephew because it is a sort of prequel. I hate to use that word with Narnia because prequel always tends to dilute the meaning of every series in which that term is offered. The prequel is a kind of cheap term that was thrown at something, usually film. You think of the prequel with Star Wars. One more thing. We will be covering The Phantom Menace with my friend Toby Harvard coming up. In case you don't know, or if you're new here, Toby is a big deal. He's kind of a big deal. Toby Harvard is a big deal. He wrote the movie Bookworm, and he's put out a few films. He is right now writing a film. We'll talk to him about that, but he is a legit filmmaker. He was also a storyboard artist for Charlie XCX, which is pretty. That's at the top. That's at the top of his CV for me. So we'll be talking about the Phantom Menace with him. The term prequel, though, is something I've always found cheap. If you disagree with that, that's fine. But The Magician's Nephew really is more of the genesis of Narnia. And here we get into the crossover between Old Narnia and New Narnia, and really the Old Covenant and the New Covenant. And this is a pretty devastating book, and I know people think this. People have reached out and talked about how devastating it was to read about the death of Aslan in this. Of course, there's death and resurrection. So this is a wonderful book, and it really is pretty heavy. It's a pretty heavy book. But I'm going to discuss again what makes these books so special and how C.S. Lewis really is able to write a children's story for all ages would be this sort of generalized way of looking at this. To me, again, to repeat my loose thesis that I mentioned in the first installment of the series, I think that Narnia that C.S. Lewis wrote Narnia for us for the child that we were, and now for the adult that we're going to become in all of these books. And he does that through a kind of deep magic, which is the magic of composition and creativity and writing these wonderful novels. Diction tends to be his medium for that. And this is something that I think is a kind of, wise words and life lesson. This is the kind of life lesson for any of us who are trying to create things, not just artistically, but if we have any sort of calling, any sort of vocation that's not just our normal job, not just the normal office job or what have you. When you really have a talent, a God-given talent, I think that the talents are God-given. I think that C.S. Lewis really typifies what we're supposed to do with this. And what I mean by it is this, and this is really described in the book Narnian here, which is a fantastic, really fantastic biography. What C.S. Lewis manages to accomplish basically is that, it's not so basic, is when we think of the process of developing a talent, we're given a talent, and the sort of monetized way of looking at this would be the 10,000 hour theorem, which is that, you know what that is. You spend 10,000 hours with something and you get good at it. Now, to think of this in a more metaphysical way, I suppose, that crosses over into the physical and the tangible, it would be like this. I have a friend. His name is James Kane. I'm going to say his name, James Kane. He's one of my schoolmates. And this fella that I went to school with for 13 years, that I haven't seen in a long time, and I hope he's doing well out there. I know he is. He became a Christian when we were in 12th grade, and I think he's a minister now, or he's something. I haven't seen him in a long time. I know he's got a big, beautiful family. Anyway, I was in a band. I played piano when I was 5, and I started when I was 5, and then when I was 14, basically my teacher had left, and I learned to play by ear, and then I picked up the guitar and sort of played by ear, and then became a guitarist and singer in a band. I had 3 bands. My first band was called Atomic Finger. We started in 6th grade, and we played one song. We played "Come As You Are" by Nirvana, and it was pretty good actually for 6th grade, and 6th into 7th grade. And then I got a band called Lamb Chop. Then I went into and Lamb Chop played a lot of events. We got paid to play a bunch of places. We played school dances and events and stuff like that. We were in 7th and into 8th grade. And then I had a band called Purple Stuff in 9th grade, where we played just basically punk rock, and we wrote our own songs. But with all that, I was never really a good guitarist. I could play chords and I could play power chords, but I couldn't really play the guitar. Well, I have this friend named James Kane, and I remember him walking into Mr. Bruner's English class one day, and I think my friend Logan had a guitar, and James said, "Hey, let me see that real quick," and he handed it to him, and James Kane, who had never touched a guitar before, played the song that Logan had just played on the guitar. He played the whole thing. He played all the chords, and I knew he had never played the guitar before because he had nothing to do with music when we were in what we called lower school. He just never had anything to do with music. And I remember looking at him playing the guitar with the kind of diabolical envy that a youngster has, and he said, I think maybe I'll get a guitar. What do you guys think? And I said, no, don't do that. No, I said, you're really good. Wow. You know. Uh, so anyway, he got a guitar, and he was the best guitarist I've ever seen. He never took a single lesson. He basically, God gave him this talent. It was ingrained in him, and he not only played chords back to you, but he played scales and he played notes. And when he put his hands on the guitar, it was like King Arthur grabbing Excalibur. And this, he actually became the guitarist for my friend Logan's band. And then this is a long story. I'm just going to tell it anyway. He and my friend Rollin, one of my good friends who was in the chat the other night, took a drive cross country to California after we graduated from school, and it was just the two of them. And James brought an acoustic guitar with him, and he recorded it like on a what do you call it, like a Fisher Price, 2-track or something with batteries. And when he got back, he gave me the tape of this song, and he wrote it for me, and he played the song, and it's one of the most beautiful songs I've ever heard, and of any song. And my point with all this is that once James touched the guitar, and he was already good, he was never without it. And the guitar became an extension of not only of his body, it became another arm, but it's like the frets were made for his fingers to touch, and he was never without it. So there's no way of monetizing, of adding numbers or hours to the amount of time that he spent with it. Now, this goes for anyone that's doing anything that they love and that they want to create. There's no way to sort of measure this. It's you build up something, and it becomes yourself, and you want to work for it, and you want to put yourself through there can be a lot of pain involved in this, and a lot of suffering. And this kind of ties into the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe here in terms of what the characters go through. That suffering, obviously, we know this, that suffering, we should be thankful for our suffering, because we are small cogs and parts in a giant system where we're here very briefly. And C.S. Lewis manages to, I think of him writing these books when I give that sort of long analogy, because you go from starting off in the foundation, and you build here's another analogy, another metaphor. You build this house, and you build the stories of the house, and you put in all the details, and then you get to the attic, and then you put the roof on, and now you've got it. You've got everything. But at some point, it's not enough. And so the past is prologue. You have to go back to the roots. You got to go back to the foundation. You go back to the very beginning of what made you do this in the first place. Because at times, you get lost in the process. You want to watch the process. You get lost in that, and you forget about the joy of what it means to create and why you created it in the first place. And so for C.S. Lewis, he goes back into the basics of language, the way the sentences are structured, the way the syntax works in these books, and the way that his mastery over abstract and concrete language reveals itself in the books. It becomes a kind of code. It becomes magical. It's like it's like a spell. It's a good spell. He's spelling. Whoa, that was deep. No, he's spelling, and there's a voice in these books, especially in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. There is a voice, and a voice. No, there's a voice where the characters come alive, and he is speaking through not just children in the book, but he's speaking to and through us and how we felt once and the kind of joy that we're supposed to feel, especially when we shake off our old self and understand that we have a new self, and the new self can only come through the death, resurrection, and redemption of Christ. And in the books, that is through Aslan. And Aslan, this book, The World According to Narnia, really paints a beautiful picture of how the unexpected always happens in Narnia. Everything is unexpected. You couldn't have guessed it, he says. We can never guess what is going to be revealed in terms of how we're going to. You can't even guess that we're going to have new selves. You can't guess that the person we are now will be the person that we are in the future, but a different person. Shouts out to our friend Mick, Technora Graphics, because Mick, thank you to Mick. You know, I'm going to be very personal here. If there's one thing, sometimes we make a difference in people's lives, and it's just through one thing that you did. And I'll say that if there was ever one thing that Mick did, it was to, out of the goodness of his own heart, put me in touch with his father Vladimir down in Florida. Shouts out to Father Vladimir. And I had this conversation with him where it's funny reading these books, because this is the way Providence works. Because I was reading these books, and this is in many ways exactly what he was saying to me. This is a journey that we go through in life where the unexpected goodness of Christ, reveals itself all the time. And this is what The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe is about, because it makes a difference that these are children going into Narnia, and they're not full-grown adults. Because again, it speaks to who we are and then who we're going to become. When Aslan passes away, when he sacrifices himself for Narnia, for his creation, and then we find that he returns, the first thing that Lucy does is they play with him. So the great and terrible Aslan comes back to Narnia, and first we begin to see that the eternal wintertime what seemed eternal, the endless winter without Christmas, is over. First we have the sounds of nature that start appearing. The ice begins to melt. We hear the sound of moving water, and we start to see springtime occur in Narnia. And when Aslan reveals himself, he is terrifying and terrible, full of terror and ferocious, and yet he is the personal creator of Lucy. And Lucy is the character that really gets me in this book. I mean, there's a part in this book where I really, even now as a 44-year-old, I think it hit me very, very hard reading this book. And it's towards the end of the book when the four Pevensies take over their roles as they are the sons of Adam and the daughters of Eve, and they take over the four seats of the kingdom to rule over the kingdom for Aslan. And Lucy is, brave, and it reminds me of my sister, and so she also is emblematic of the journey of Aslan, because she is so innocent and wide-eyed, but she's not naive, and she is as hurt by. She is hurt by betrayal and sin, as that's mirrored in the tears of Aslan. So you notice that I'm skipping forward here in the book a little bit, but you notice that when after the battle, when Aslan goes to meet with the White Witch, and we know that he's decided to sacrifice himself for Narnia, he starts to tread through Narnia, and the children are watching him, and they see a deep sadness in him. And this is Christ walking through the Garden of Gethsemane. He's walking through his garden, and he's on his way to Golgotha. And when he gets there, he has the power to roar and to smite his enemies with his voice. He created and he can destroy with his voice, and yet he's silent. And this is where there's a kind of, not dualism how we usually think about it, but the twofold nature of goodness and kindness as seen in the world. I don't want to say manifested. I just said it now, but I hate that word. But how this appears to people, because we know, and the children are going to come to understand that Aslan is doing this because he is fulfilling. He's fulfilling the law. He's fulfilling the law, the laws of the prophets. He's fulfilling the Old Testament. He's fulfilling what they call the deep magic from the beginning of time, and that is that when a person sacrifices himself, an innocent person who has done nothing and sacrifices himself in silence for someone else, especially someone who has done something, then this is the fulfillment of what's going to take the old Narnia into the new Narnia, and the new world is going to appear. And the White Witch and all of her ghouls and goblins think that this is weakness. They think that that he's a fool, but he's no fool. This is purposeful, and this is something that they can't understand. This is rife throughout both The Magician's Nephew and The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, because Edmund, who is the betrayer in this book, who also, by the way, receives total redemption in the book, and it is one of the most beautiful things. He becomes Edmund the Just. Edmund, who has betrayed his siblings, he's betrayed Aslan, he's betrayed Narnia, he's betrayed everyone, betrayed himself. That's probably the biggest thing, that he's betrayed himself, and he doesn't even know it. And he works hard to sin. He works hard to betray himself. Even when he gets to when he is pulling the sled for the White Witch, and he becomes this beastly character, and he knows that he's cold, and he knows he's not going to get anything to eat, he still keeps on. He thinks it's too late to turn back. And then he finally gets redeemed. But Lucy doesn't really have to go through this. She goes through her own suffering, and this is why Lucy is one of the most perfect characters, because her suffering is the suffering of Aslan. She is so selfless in everything that she does, that she's really she holds the kind of promise and redemption of Narnia within her very person. And Aslan recognizes this. And this is why when he comes back and he's playing, she says that he was somehow both a terrible lion and a kitten playing with her. And they sit down to play a game of chess, and then they roll about the fields, and this is heaven, or heaven on earth. The new heaven and the new earth here. And anyway, it's beautiful. So let's kind of take us a little bit chronologically through the book, because it's the Chronicles of Narnia. And what happens is we have 4 children who go to stay with this professor. Right? This is their uncle. Isn't he their uncle? Is he their uncle? Is Diggory their uncle? He's not their uncle. That would be Uncle Andrew. He's the professor. They go to stay with the professor. The professor is Diggory from The Magician's Nephew. And he represents both logic and... he's not pure logic. He's not pure reason, because that's kind of what Andrew is, in a way, before Andrew becomes wholly locked up inside himself in this kind of satanic servant. This book makes clear that Uncle Andrew really is a purely satanic character, because he is working for this White Witch, and he's basically working to pervert and subvert everything that's good. Everything that the witch has is from Aslan, but she she perverts it to her own ends and for her own control. And so one of the motifs in the book, in all the books, I think, is that the beauty of creation is anathema to the subversive. That hearing the sound of Aslan roaring to the righteous is the sound of creation. It's the sound of the awesome power of Aslan, and that is a terrifying roar to the unwashed. And it's also, whenever they hear life created, or whenever they hear birds chirping, they take that there's a different meaning here. And so here's what happens. So the four children are playing around in the house, and they start playing hide and seek because there are adults around, and they've got to go play elsewhere. And so Lucy ends up in this wardrobe. They kind of make their way through this labyrinthine house, and then they end up in this singular room with a door and a wardrobe. And of course, the wardrobe is made from the tree in The Magician's Nephew. She opens the wardrobe, climbs in. C.S. Lewis, here's one of the things he does. He says he adds these little maxims. So they make sure not to close the wardrobe all the way because, as every child knows, if you close the wardrobe, you can't get out. And that's the sort of thing I'm talking about. It's very simple, and it speaks in a very plain language to children, but it's also something that resonates in our deep mind from when I was a teenager once. I was a kid once. We all were. So she makes her way through, and there are these there's fur coats, there's coats. She makes her way all the way to the back, and she ends up in the doorway to another world. Unlike The Magician's Nephew, here they end up in a beautiful glittering world full of snow. Everything is iced, and she immediately meets a faun named Tumnus, who's carrying an umbrella or a parasol, an umbrella, and carrying his parcels, and she makes friends with him. They immediately make friends, and she says, well, so unlike another book, if there were another book that would say how she got here and what she's doing, we don't go through the decision-making process of she just blindly follows and she's, and then gets lost. We don't have to worry about that with Lucy. Instead, we take it through the childlike whimsy and logic of what a person would do in this situation when you were a child. You follow the directions that the older people told you. And so she remembers that she can't get lost from the place, and she has to go back, and she's aware of her siblings, and at times she begins to sort of feel the enchantment of Narnia because the place is so overwhelming in its beauty, and she's in another world. And that's part of the reason this is a chronicle, because another one of the motifs in all of these books is the passage of time. And we learn that time in Narnia is different from time back in the world because it's unexpected. And so she follows Tumnus back to his place, and he's got a warm, cozy place. And what's interesting also with the children is that they are all greeted with food wherever they go. And this is a sort of, it's a pipeline for how we react as human beings in a place, and how our appetites function through us, and how we can become slaves to the passions. So when Lucy goes to meet Tumnus, she's glad to get something to eat, but it's not what rules her. She just enjoys the company. She wants to be with a person who's nice to her, or a creature who's nice to her. And it also functions, Narnia, we see right away with Lucy, functions as the outer world of the imagination, because the children at no point up to this point in the book have gone into imagination land. They aren't really using their imagination to play, not in an unhealthy way. It's just that they're playing outside, they're playing games, they're running in the woods, but we don't really hear descriptions or understand them as pretending. And so here we go into the outer world. This author makes a good point of showing how this is completely different from Peter Pan, which I covered with Jamie. Peter Pan, where when Peter Pan arrives, he is speaking to the inner life of the characters. They already imagine Neverland and they imagine Peter Pan before he gets there. So he's sort of coming into their inner world. But these characters go into an outer world, and this makes it both much more surreal, but also somehow more real to us physically and in our soul. So Tumnus now reveals himself as this is it's an unexpected, you could never have guessed what he does. He reveals himself as basically running a ruse, and he immediately repents for it. This is a great character because he repents for something that he really hasn't done yet. So he tells Lucy that he's been hired by the White Witch to basically kidnap any son of man or daughter of Eve that he finds, because that is the indication to the White Witch from way back when that something is awry, and that's going to be her enemy. And so he tells her, I'm supposed to keep you, but you need to go. And so he lets her go. And then eventually that turns, and that's what allows Lucy and the children to go back and go on their adventure, which is a selfless adventure, because they're not just looking for imagination. They're not just looking for adventures. The adventure here is a moral adventure of trying to rescue Tumnus, because not just because she owes it to him, but because it's the right thing to do. She has an understanding of morality, and her morality comes from what we're going to learn is Aslan's creation of Narnia that will blend over into the real world. And this is where the professor really comes into play. So when Lucy goes back into the real world, she gets out of the wardrobe, and the others don't believe. They don't believe her, and this is because Edmund. When Edmund goes through, her brother goes back through in the second game, and he meets the White Witch. Well, his adventure is completely different, because he immediately meets the White Witch, which he refers to as the Queen. He never refers to her as a witch at this point. It's only the Queen. And she seduces him with Turkish delight. So his appetite is for something sweet, for the dainties. And this is a metaphor for both addiction, like literal addiction, but for addiction to sin, addiction to things that enslave us. And he just wants to he has an appetite for destruction. Remember that in the Screw Tape letters, we learned that there's a kind of bargain here where all Screw Tape and Wormwood have to do is offer something once, and once you become enslaved to it, the bargain becomes that you keep feeding yourself with feeding your appetite, but you never become satiated, and pretty soon there's nothing that they have to offer in return. And so when the White Witch seduces Edmund with Turkish delight, she basically gives him less and less and less, and really only keeps him alive because he serves a purpose for her. This is also a mirror from Uncle Andrew, and this is Jadis in the book. So Jadis is now old. So Jadis and Uncle Andrew in the Magician's Nephew, we really see that that they are characters who find themselves above. I'm above their lying. What does Kurt say? I am above their lying petty morality. They're above their morality. They're above people. They have special rules for themselves, and so therefore they only see people and goodness as a means to an end, and how much they can use people. Yeah, so the government is like the witch. Yeah, that's pretty much it, Jason. So
So when Edmund gets back and he tells Lucy, like, yeah, no, I saw what you saw. And then when they meet the others who want to know about Narnia because they don't believe her, he betrays her. He says, no, none didn't happen. She's lying. And this is really what breaks Lucy's heart. And so they go and meet the professor, and the professor really represents one of C.S. Lewis's own teachers who tells them that to look at things through logic, and he's not a purely logical character. Of course, this is Diggory from A Magician's Nephew. He is the redeemed hero from the first book that we covered. And he basically tells them that, let's look at it logically. Have you ever had a reason to doubt Lucy before? Has she ever lied to you? And they say no. Well, then he says, well, then it's most likely that she's probably not lying. Well, what about this phantasmagorical land? I mean, could that be possible? And he says, why not? Of course, he's been there. So he's the catalyst for this whole thing. But that's because he's also a good teacher for children, and so anyway, they make their way back into Narnia, and this is where the adventure really gets going, because they are immediately hunted. We see that Tumnus is gone. He's had to run away, or he's been captured, and we find these other characters, the Beavers. We find Mr. and Mrs. Beaver, and this is everything in this is allegorical and has a deep symbolism, because when they go and meet the Beavers, again, they go into the beaver dam, essentially. And again, they're fed. Isn't it interesting, though, to think about life and food? I mean, food really, this is why, this is my body, which I give for you. This is why the body and blood of Christ is so important, and the Eucharist. But in our daily lives, give us, Lord, our daily bread. We think about how just in our normal lives, how not in terms of how biologically important food is, but how important it is for the soul. Anytime that you have gone through any sort of pain in your life, or any kind of any kind of fracturing struggle, it seems to be always that food is the thing that we, this is why we lose our appetite when we are depressed or when something horrible happens to us. People tend to lose their appetite. They don't want to eat. I mean, look at the animal world, how that's a clear sign that something is wrong. And so think of a funeral service. It's not only the celebration of life in a wedding where you have the reception and food, but it's also, hey, thanks, Phone Punk, appreciate it. But it's also, think of the funeral. I mean, sounds bad, but it's not so bad. Some of the best food I've ever had in my life is at funeral. I've been to a lot of funerals. It's the funeral reception. And, that's one of the things that you do when you're, kind of like when you live in a wholesome neighborhood and the new neighbor moves in and you leave a pie on the doorstep or whatever, welcoming to the neighborhood. People still do that. It's the first thing you do when someone passes away, when your someone your friend knows has passed away or whatever, you take food over to the house because it's the sign of being sustained. It's warmth and life. And so they go and eat in Mr. and Mrs. Beaver's house, and they're given this warm, cozy meal. And of course, Edmund, who's there, can't stop. He's being fed with a warm, cozy meal, but he can't stop thinking about the Turkish delights. He already wants his dessert. This also speaks to the child in us and how you can't have dessert till you've had your meal, but also we know that this is a symbol of the passions. And he's already betraying them before they've even finished the meal, because he literally is out the door contemplating and calculating the sound of the door shutting so that he won't disturb them and he can go off. And that's right, hospitality. And so he finds his way to the White Witch, whom he calls the Queen, and her dwarf, who is Mephistopheles, and a homunculoid creature, and he's gone. And so the children have to find their way. They have to figure out what to do, and then they start hearing that Aslan is on the move. That's the phrase in the book, and this means that, you know, later on in the book they will say that the White Witch is the hangman for the Emperor. I see the Emperor. I mean, is the Emperor? We see Aslan as, you know, no one gets to the Father except through the Son. So Aslan is the Christ figure, and the Father is the Emperor from overseas. So he doesn't appear to them except through Aslan. And so, what was I saying? So, so Aslan is on the move, and eventually they see him. And what's the phrase? This is the edition that I had. I'm gonna do my unboxing in a second. Here we go. Okay, this is what chapter is this? This is What Happened After Dinner, chapter 8, page 80 of the book. So let's see. Find a good place to start for this. Page 79 here. You'll understand when you see him. But shall we see him? Asked Susan. Why, daughter of Eve? That's what I brought you here for. I'm to lead you where you shall meet him, said Mr. Beaver. Is he a man? Asked Lucy. Aslan a man? Asked Mr. Beaver sternly. Certainly not. I tell you, he is the king of the wood and the son of the great emperor beyond the sea. Don't you know who is the king of beasts? Aslan is a lion, the great lion. Oh, said Susan. I thought he was a man. Is he quite safe? I shall feel rather nervous about meeting a lion. That you will, dearie, and make no mistake, said Mrs. Beaver. If there's anyone who can appear before Aslan without their knees knocking, they're either braver than most or else just silly. Then he isn't safe, asked Lucy. Safe? Said Mr. Beaver. Don't you hear what Mrs. Beaver tells you? Who said anything about safe? Course he isn't safe, but he's good. He's the king, I tell you. I'm longing to see him, said Peter. Even if I do feel frightened when it comes to the point, God, that almost gets me right there. Because what happens with Peter is, you know, this is a kind of mirror with Isaiah. And I don't know about you, but it's not to be over sentimental here, you know, on a literary stream, but it is very difficult to hear Isaiah and to hear about Isaiah swooning before God and Isaiah coming forth and saying, "Send me, Lord." I mean, that's I find that very, very difficult at the moment to make it through. And so that's what Peter does. Peter does exactly that. And before this, of course, they are given their tokens and talismans by Father Christmas. So Santa Claus shows up, Father Christmas, and gives them tokens. Of course, they're given suits of armor and healing anodynes. This is funny, but this is where I really thought of Zelda, of all things, because, you know, there has to be, I don't know the story of the provenance of Zelda. Maybe somebody could tell me in the comments afterwards, but there really is Zelda is a kind of combination of Lord of the Rings and Narnia. We have elves and creatures, and, you know, when I think about Zelda, I think about, because I was 5 when Nintendo came out in 1985, and when The Legend of Zelda came out and Link is on there, and that kind of holds, it has a kind of auditory mystery for me that resembles the literary mystery of the Chronicles of Narnia, because I talked last time about how when I first read The Magician's Nephew, there's a thing about not just the cover of the book, but the cover of the book really did scared me when I read the book. It really terrified me, because the wood between the worlds with its magic pools, and the Jadis holding onto the hair, and following them into the world really, really scared me when I was young. And I had a power glove as well. My grandmommy gave me a power glove, which ended up just being a thing that I wore to go outside and play. I cut the cord on it and just walk around as a robot boy. because it did not work playing Super Mario Brothers or anything else, Rad Racer, but I would come home from school and my mom played The Legend of Zelda, and my mom beat the game. I don't know if you guys, my mom is really good with games. She's a genius when it comes to games. She loves puzzles and she, it's just funny to think about that. When you think about video games, especially early video games, I mean, they're for kids, and you would never think of your parents playing games. That was like a meme before there were memes. It's like the dad coming in and being like, put away your Nintendo and your Fortnite. You guys need to go outside and play. There's that kind of thing. They just, you can always tell when parents, or when they faked video games in movies, because they don't do this so much anymore, but when you hold a controller, everybody knows when you play a game, when you hold the controller, you're holding the controller and you're playing the game and it's all in your thumbs. Of course, parents always, they move it all around like this, and they always did that in movies. That's how you know they're playing a fake game, or they have girls who've never played a video game. Well, my mom never did that. She played the game like you were supposed to. I'd come home and she'd be, sitting on the sofa playing this game, and I used to. She's the only one I ever enjoyed watching playing video games because she made it all the way through Zelda. She killed the game. I mean, she killed it. She won, and it was like scary. The music in the original Nintendo. I was like 5 when this came out, and it's got this deep ocarina of time, before the ocarina of time. Of course, we're talking about Legend of Zelda 1. But anyway, that somehow plays into this. And of course, when Link gets his magic potions and he's got the blue and the red, that always really, that's the thing glowing for you, that you need those things to win the game. And so that's, of course, what happens to the Pevensie children. But we also hear about Aslan, let's see, on page 67 here. A very curious thing happened. None of the children knew who Aslan was any more than you do. But the moment that right there, that's a random sentence in the book, but it perfectly encapsulates what I'm talking about with C.S. Lewis's literary magic, which is that he all of a sudden crosses over into the second person, and he does it at specific times in the book where it's very subtle, but you realize he's not just telling a children's story, he's telling it to you. He's saying it to me. The book is written for me. The book is written for you personally. And it's one of these works of art where it is so huge and so large, and there's no target audience except for you personally. And it's very interesting how he manages to do that. So he says, but the moment the beaver had spoken these words, everyone felt quite different. Perhaps it has sometimes happened to you in a dream that someone says something which you don't understand, but in the dream it feels as if it had some enormous meaning. Either a terrifying one, which turns the whole dream into a nightmare, or also lovely meaning, too lovely to put into words, which makes the dream so beautiful that you remember it all your life and are always wishing you could get into that dream again. It was like that now. That is so perfect. Do you guys have this? Do you have... I remember my dreams very well. I know we don't want to sit around and talk about dreams. It's like when you see your coworker and you're like, you know what I dreamed about last night? No, please don't tell me. It's not interesting. Well, I'll say this in general about dreams. I remember my dreams very well. Dreams are important. I think I guess we go into the noetic realm when we're dreaming. I don't know what happens when we dream, but it's very strange. And my dreams tend to be recurring dreams of dreams I've had. So I don't just have, they say the recurring dream, like as if you're going through one thing the entire time. But I dream about dreams I had so I can see myself dreaming the dream. And for instance, you might not find this interesting, but I have this one dream of, and I first had it when I was 8 years old, and I'm going to the pool, and I'm walking along this sidewalk, and there's a girl. I was 8, and there's a girl there who's like a friend of somebody on swim team, and she's right there, and I'm supposed to meet her, and she's supposed to turn around, and all of a sudden the the wind is blowing. One of the dreams after this was that I was going through that, and the wind is blowing, and all of a sudden I was distracted by the wind, and I thought, if I just jump up in the air high enough, I'll fly away, and then I got to get back, right? Well, I still have this dream, and in the dream, I'm both the same age, and I'm that age, but now we're all grown-ups, and I don't know who, I still don't know who it is, and I keep thinking, in my waking life, I think about, who is this? Who was this person? Was it this girl Rebecca? Was it this girl Becca that was on swim team, or was it this other girl Christian? I don't know. So, but anyway, it's just a weird dream. And then I have dreams where I'm in the dream, but I'm writing a dream like a movie, and I see myself sitting over a typewriter, and I'm writing a dream, and I can see the words in the dream like a script on a page that keeps spooling out. But this is interesting because he's speaking to this. I'm only saying that because he's speaking to this very sort of fact here. He says, it was like that now. At the name of Aslan, each one of the children felt something jump in its inside. Edmund felt a sensation of mysterious horror telling. Peter felt something brave and adventurous. Susan felt as if some delicious smell or some delightful strain of music had just floated by her. And Lucy got the feeling you have when you wake up in the morning and realize that it's the beginning of the holidays or the beginning of summer. This is why Lucy is so beautiful, because, of course, the entire Narnia is going to end with the term is over, the holidays have begun. And this is why the conflict in the book is set so brilliantly with Christmas, with wintertime without Christmas. Because if Christmas is the brightest spot, and the bright spot in the middle of the cold of the dead of wintertime, everything's dead, but we have this one bright spot where we can all gather, our families can gather together. Think of yourself as being a child when Christmas vacation starts. I mean, that's C.S. Lewis said that was heaven. That must be what heaven would be like to him. And I agree with that. I totally agree with that in many ways. And so Lucy feels this sense of just the next world to come. Peter, it's interesting, feels a sense of duty and self-sacrifice. Susan feels the overwhelming sensation of the dazzling beauty of Narnia, but she's not in the same way that Edmund felt with his what becomes his appetite for destruction. And Edmund feels fear, but it's not the same type of fear that the others feel. The others feel when they come to meet Aslan, or even when they think of him, that this is, Solomon's fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. That one of these books makes clear that the words awesome and awful were used the same. They were synonymous until, about 75 years ago. And awesome, of course, took on a completely different connotation, where we have an important word, but, it becomes to be diluted in slang. But awesome, now the two words are completely delineated. Awful has taken on the connotation of something that is bad, and awesome is something that is overwhelmingly good. But in reality, both, when talking about God, are essentially bound up in one, which is that in the books, Aslan is huge and majestic, and he is the god of Narnia. He's the king of the wood. He's the king of the world. And so he has the power of creation and destruction. But what's really awesome, and he's unpredictable. He's unpredictable because we're not on his time. But what's really brilliant and beautiful is that extends down to us on a personal level, and that he cries the tears of love, and love is unexpected. It's the unexpected joy that we come across in this world. And that's what 3 of the children learn, and eventually Edmund's going to learn, and that wicked ones cannot understand. They can never understand this. The book also perfectly shows you that, there's faith in love, and the greatest of these is love. And love, this is why creation is infinite, that it was before us, before the dawn of time, and it's after us, and it's not up to us, and that every second for us is a miracle, and that we're created in God's image, and that, why would you be alive? Out of all time and all history, and out of extending out to the infinitude of the universe or nature, and a speck of dust on another planet, or a flower petal, all these things happening, and yet with everything, with the great variety of beauty in the world, that why would you be here right now thinking? Why would you be here at all? And that's, God knows every hair on your head. So he knew you before you knew yourself. And so, yeah. Anyway, so let's move on here. So let's get to one of the other parts here. In the witch's house, chapter 9 describes Edmund and how. Let me read you what it says about Edmund here. And now, of course, you want to know what happened to Edmund. He had eaten his share of the dinner, but he hadn't really enjoyed it because he was thinking all the time about Turkish delight. And there's nothing that spoils the taste of good ordinary food half so much as the memory of bad magic food. And he had heard the conversation and hadn't enjoyed it much either, because when he kept on thinking that the others were taking no notice of him and trying to give him the cold shoulder, they weren't, but he imagined it. So, of course, he's playing the victim, right? He cries out as he strikes you. And then he had listened until Mr. Beaver told him about Aslan, until he had heard the whole arrangement for meeting Aslan at the stone table. The stone table is the altar. It was then that he began very quietly to edge himself under the curtain which hung over the door, for the mention of Aslan gave him a mysterious and horrible feeling, just as it gave the others a mysterious and lovely feeling. It says, did I write this? I wrote, Edmund eaten of the food of Lilith, the white witch, and even made Andrew, gloating and sulking in misery, only seeing that. Oh yeah, they only see what they want, selfish with pride. So you get what you want in Narnia, but it's not always. It's not always what you imagined. We get the tokens, gifts, and talismans from Father Christmas. Oh yeah, okay. So later on, so what happens is we come across Aslan. And all of these creatures, and the centaurs, and the fauns, and the satyrs. Bacchus is even alive in this majestic world full of possibilities. And then, of course, we find that what happens, that the white witch comes. Oh yeah, she sends her two wolves. She sends her main wolf, but her two wolves, which is reminiscent of Odin. Here, she sends her wolves off to get the sons and daughters of Adam and Eve, and Aslan is there, and Peter steps up. He kills one of the wolves, steps forward, and in his bravery kills one of the wolves, and he becomes a great warrior here. And then Aslan gets them to follow the other wolves back to the witch's castle, where when Aslan walks in, of course, all of the stone statues come back to life, including Tumnus. This is where Edmund sees, when Edmund first gets to the castle, Cair Pavel with the White Witch, the Queen, Jadis. He sees a statue of a lion, and yes, Bacchus is there. And the lion, he imagines, is Aslan, and so his reaction is, oh, I don't have anything to be afraid of. And then when he finally comes across Aslan, he is, of course, terrified, as the others are, but in a different way. And then after the battle, we learned that the deep magic demands a blood sacrifice because of the property taken from Jadis. And so Aslan stands up like a man on two legs and goes and talks with Jadis in a kind of, they parlay. And when he comes back, he is full of hope and yet also sad. Now, it's what you didn't expect. And then he tells them that he has to go off. The children, Lucy and Susan, follow him and see him walking low because this is Christ walking through Gethsemane, knowing what he has to do. He tells them, you can't come with me. And he walks his way up, sacrifices himself on the stone table. They shear him like a lamb to the slaughter, of course, and they strike him with this blade, and they kill him after jeering at him carrying his cross, of course. And so he's gone, and the children weep. And then, of course, what happens later is that the stone table breaks, right? The temple garments, I mean, everything's torn in two. The world shakes, and Aslan comes out anew. And now he is the resurrected Aslan, leaping and playing with the children. Let me see if I can find this part. Let's see. Because it's so majestical. Let's see. And so what happens? Okay, so what happens then? I'll find it later. So what happens is that he returns, and now we have the big battle, and we have Aslan ruling over the world. Everything is redeemed, and even Edmund, who has been rescued by the centaurs, comes to take his place amongst the kings and queens of Narnia. Peter is knighted, and he becomes a great king. And then we have Aslan, who has given us a new world. And when the children return, first they have the hunting of the white stag. The white stag, or the white hart, represents a kind of Arthurian bent to the story where we, instead of hunting the majestic creature, he gives you a gift, and the children grow up and they become the kings and queens of Narnia until eventually they have to make their way back through the wardrobe. And when they make their way back, only a minute has passed and they are children again, and they tell the professor about what's happened, and it's believable because the professor has been there. And this becomes basically their great Christmas present. Says, so these kings and queens entered the thicket, and before they had gone a score of paces, they all remembered that the thing that they had seen was called a lamppost. Of course, the lamppost is from the magician's nephew. And before they had gone 20 more, they noticed that they were making their way not through the branches, but through coats. And next moment, they all came tumbling out of a wardrobe door into the empty room, and they were... Hold on a sec. And the next moment they all came tumbling out of a wardrobe door in the empty room, and they were no longer kings and queens in their hunting array, but just Peter, Susan, Edmund, and Lucy in their old clothes. It was the same day and the same hour of the day on which they had all gone into the wardrobe to hide. Mrs. McCready and the visitors were still talking in the passage, but luckily they never came into the empty room, and so the children weren't caught. And that would have been the very end of the story if it hadn't been that they felt they really must explain to the professor why 4 of the coats out of his wardrobe were missing. And the professor, who was a very remarkable man, didn't tell them not to be silly or not to tell lies, but believe the whole story. No, he said, I don't think it would be any good trying to go back through the wardrobe door to get the coats. You won't get into Narnia again by that route. Nor would the coats be much use to you by now if you did, eh? What's that? Yes, of course, you'll get back to Narnia again someday. Once a king in Narnia, always a king in Narnia. But don't go trying to use the same route twice. Instead, don't try to get there at all. It'll happen when you're not looking for it, unexpected. And don't talk too much about it, even among yourselves. And don't mention it to anyone else unless you find that they've had adventures of the same sort themselves. What's that? How will you know? Oh, you'll know, all right. Odd things, they say. Even their looks will let the secret out. Keep your eyes open. Bless me. What do they teach them at these schools? And that is the very end of the adventure of the wardrobe. But if the professor was right, it was only the beginning of the adventures of Narnia. So, it's a fantastic book. God, it's so good. And a reality you could not have guessed. Let's see. Yeah, this says, in Peter Pan, Neverland is the geography of the Darling's inner world. When Miss Darling peeks into her children's minds, she finds maps of Neverland. Before Peter Pan climbs into the nursery window, he already exists in the Darling's imaginations. Narnia and the Pevensie children's relationship to it are another matter altogether. The Pevensies may enjoy rich imaginative lives, but their imaginations do not give rise to Narnia any more than they give rise to London or Professor Kirk's house. They explore, they play hide and seek, they climb trees and swim and lie in the heather, but we never hear of them playing make-believe. Lewis is careful from the start not to leave the possibility that Narnia is a figment of anybody's imagination. As peculiar as it seems, the world on one side of the wardrobe is as real as the world on the other. We take reality as it comes to us, Lewis writes. There is no good jabbering about what it ought to be like or what we should have expected it to be like. As if to underscore Narnia's reality, Lewis lovingly renders Tumnus's cave as a place of snug hominess. Except for the fact that he's a faun, Tumnus might be an English householder. He sits Lucy down in front of a cozy fire and serves her just the sort of tea that she might get at home. The stories he tells of Narnia, all nymphs and dryads and summer dances of red dwarves and treasure hunts of the feasts of Bacchus and Silenus, are fantastic to be sure, but the familiar domesticity of his little cave is the overruling impression of Lucy's first visit. In fact, the humans are the mythical creatures to the creatures in Narnia. They've never seen them. They've never been there. They are from, she is the daughter of Eve from the land of Spare Room, where eternal summer begins around the bright city of Wardrobe. The White Witch is the spirit of death itself. She's managed to stop the life-giving cycle of the seasons whereby life springs forth from winter's pall. She managed even to take away Christmas, that one spark of life and joy in the middle of the year's dead time. By banishing joy from the realm, she hopes to cut down all signposts leading back to her great enemy, Aslan. The least sign of joy represents a weakening of her power. Misery is the White Witch's only happiness. It's the only sign that she's still in charge. About Edmund, says, greed and gluttony overcome all the better tendencies in Edmund, including his table manners. But the witch, who was at first very stern when Edmund didn't treat her with the courtly manners due a queen, is no longer bothered by the egregious breaches of courtesy. She's greedy, too, and she loves power more than she loves her own dignity. Edmund's so busy shoveling Turkish delight into his mouth, it doesn't occur to him to wonder why the witch should be so interested in his brothers and sisters. Edmund's betrayal of Lucy is one of the nastiest things in the story. And that's a quote from the book. It certainly is. Let's see. Oh, yeah, here's another important thing about the book. When not knowing how else to start, and this is about Edmund's sophistry, the children follow a robin who seems to understand human speech and seems eager to help. Robins, as Peter points out, are always good birds in the stories he's read. This is the first instance of a theme that recurs throughout the Chronicles. The children know what to do because they've read the right imaginative stories. Edmund isn't so sure the robin means them well, or at least he claims not to be sure. He frames his reluctance as a philosophical question. How do we know what we know? The faun says the queen was bad. Edmund still insists on calling her a queen rather than a witch. But who is to say the fawns are on the right side? It's not necessarily a bad question to ask, but coming from a boy who has met the White Witch, who's experienced her wickedness firsthand, the question is mere sophistry. It is his desire for Turkish delight, not his desire for truth or caution, that motivates Edmund. Having raised the doubt in his brothers and sisters' minds, he doesn't seek out any resolution. Instead, he immediately changes the subject from doubt to fear. Has anyone the least idea of the way home from here? And from fear, Edmund moves immediately to his new favorite topic, his stomach. And no chance of dinner either. He may talk of philosophical dilemmas, but in the end, this is all Edmund's appetite. It's an important lesson for some of the debates that we see against our friends. Well, they devolve the debate into mere sophistry and are disingenuous in their aims, which is why our friends always tend to win these debates. Let's see. Oh, finally, let me read this part about Aslan. The Narnians cannot deliver, this is page 12 of this book, the Narnians cannot deliver themselves from the White Witch. Their only hope is Aslan, and Aslan is on the move. Not surprisingly, it's Edmund who wonders if the White Witch can turn Aslan into stone. Mr. Beaver laughs at the naivete of the question. The White Witch won't be able to look Aslan in the face, much less turn him to stone. The conflict between Aslan and the White Witch isn't a dualistic conflict between two equal and independent powers. Aslan, it's not a dualistic thing. That's what it says. Aslan is the source and origin of all that there is. It is in Aslan that all things, including the White Witch, live and move and have their being. That's from Acts 17:28. She may seem invincible from the Narnians' perspective, but she has no real hope of overpowering Aslan. Twisted and perverse as she is, everything she has twisted and perverted is something she owes to Aslan. Lewis's description of Satan's rebellion against God applies equally to the White Witch's rebellion against Aslan. It is like the scent of a flower trying to destroy the flower. Susan is always cautious, and when she learns that Aslan is a lion, she's understandably hesitant. Is he quite safe? I feel rather nervous about meeting a lion. Aslan, of course, isn't safe, and anyone who doesn't experience fear in his presence is either braver than most or else just silly, quote from the book. Aslan is not a tame lion, as Mr. Beaver says later in the story, but a tame lion isn't what the Narnians or the Pevensies want or need. Aslan isn't safe, but he's good. He invades Narnia with a terrifying, wild, and powerful goodness. He is somehow perfectly self-consistent and yet altogether unpredictable. Aslan's unpredictability, his ability to love in ways that nobody could have guessed, will soon save the rebellious Edmund and all of Narnia. And finally, Lewis says in Miracles, the slaves of the senses after the first bait are starved by their masters. So, what a great book. What a great book. This is, again, The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. And listen, if you want to support me, you can do so through getting a membership. Please grab a membership, you guys. It really helps out. And I'll be doing, of course, more members streams. Of course, we just did one with our friend Baxter, author of Digital Finance. And I'll be covering a couple of movies coming up. Probably one tomorrow afternoon, which is the movie Drop Zone, 1994, with Gary Busey, Corin Nemec, and Wesley Snipes. Also Malcolm Jamal Warner. Great movie. What a great movie. You guys ever seen Drop Zone? Music by Hans Zimmer. And, of course, I've criticized Hans Zimmer in the past. This is actually a movie where Hans Zimmer is pretty cool. Again, actually, every time I say that, I think maybe the only movie I don't like that Hans Zimmer did was the Batman movies. So maybe I do like Hans Zimmer. Yeah. But yeah, so it's got those guys. The soundtrack's pretty cool. It's got total swag they're swagged out in the movie. All the skydivers are in their 90s track jackets with No Fear shirts. And there's an interesting line from Gary Busey, which is a predictive programming Big 9 event line, which I caught last night watching it. It's crazy. I can't believe he says this in the movie, and it's 1994. That's another. Mad Mink says just watch Gladiator 2. Meh. Hey, guess what? My Gladiator 2 analysis from November is almost at 2,000 views. So go and check that out. That's doing pretty well for us. Let's do. Oh yeah, if you want to support me, also you can do it in the links provided. Let me add a couple right here just in case. Here's if you want to support me, you can do that anytime. I've had a couple inquiries about sponsor streams. So don't forget, if you want to sponsor stream, a lot of people, if you can ask me about a sponsor stream, the sponsor streams are now $120 for a sponsored stream. You can do that. You can drop me an email at madmaximalism at 2x's@gmail.com. And also, you can do that through PayPal. Here's the PayPal link if you're listening right now. You can find that on the video description, channel description, pretty much everywhere. And Here it is. You got to give me a list, and please give me a list of stuff, and it's up to me what to cover and how to cover it. But we've had a lot of streams that are sponsored streams, including really this. I mean, this whole C.S. Lewis series is really thanks to a sponsored stream, which I talked about last time. So, yeah, you can do that. You can also, you can support me through the links. First, let me give some shouts out to some super chats here. Hey, thank you to Kevin right there for that $30 on PayPal. Appreciate you. He says, it's dialectics, man. 1 through 9. No maybes, no supposes, no fractions. You can't travel into space. You can't go out into space. You can't travel in space without, what fractions, man. What are you going to land on? 1/4, 3/5? He says, LOL. Have a nice Memorial Day, Base. Thanks for the great content. Still the best. Lit film streams around. Peace. Hey, thank you, Kevin. Really appreciate you, homeboy. That is very kind. And what are you going to land on, man? 1/4, 2/5? You can't go out into space, man. You can't go out into space. That's dialectic physics, man. Dialectic logic is you either love somebody or you hate him. Mutt. You mutt. This is the way the fucking world ends, man. Not with a bang, but a whimper. And with a fucking whimper, I'm fucking splitting, Jack. Thank you for that. Thank you for that, Kevin. That's a classic. Thank you to Jason right there for that $10 on PayPal, man. Really appreciate you there. Thanks again to Evan for that $20. He says, thanks for the series, my man. We do it live. We do it live. We do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. Thank you to Evan. Thank you to Jason. Really appreciate that. Hey, thanks to Jason the other night for that $8. Hey guys, I'm sorry about putting the stream off for a couple nights here. It's not really that interesting. If you're watching this later, then you maybe not even know about that. But I honestly had a lot going on this week, and as everybody does, we're all human beings. We all have lives. And I had a lot going on. And was it Saturday night? Was it Saturday night? Saturday night. No, Friday night was when I was going to do it again. Friday night, we couldn't do it. We went out with we were invited sort of last minute by some friends of ours to dinner. So we went out to dinner and got back fairly late. Then I went on with Baxter, so that was good. That was a good chance to talk to him. And I've just been exhausted. This is, as a lot of you know what I do. And so I was reading essays, final essays and exams, nonstop all week, and it's really not that hard. I mean, it's not like I'm building houses or something. But I was, it takes a lot out of you because it's the culmination of a year, sometimes 2 or 3 years with these students that I'm teaching, and so this is their final thing they'll ever do in school. It used to be. Right now, I'm just doing. It's just regular high school advanced courses. But for many years, of course, I was teaching a college program, and then I was an adjunct, which is not really anything, but it's an adjunct for local colleges, and that probably in a way had less sort of not pressure, but took maybe less out of me. But whatever, literary analysis, going through lots and lots of work and trying to get all my work in for the end of the year. And it's the last week, graduation is next Saturday. So that'll be great. But, long and a lot of time spent on that. And it really plus it was kind of a bad week, for other things happening. But, that just really zaps me. And I don't know about you guys, but especially at this time of year, I'm in a position where, when you're involved in academia in any way, you have this great thing where you have the ability to start over every year. You don't have that in other careers. Other careers are just sort of non-ending. But when you're involved in any kind of education or academia, it's always you get to start over every year. But that can lead to other pressures and other things because you've got to get everything in of the year, and you're dealing with real people and their future lives, and trying to get them scholarships and trying to get them off living. You're dealing with people who are either already adults or about to become adults, and there's a lot of There's a lot that goes into that, especially when you're. Well, I can't really talk about it, but when you they call me the carer. I care about people a lot. Um, when you really care about people, I guess, and you're dealing with people, and especially when you're older and you have dealt with a lot of these life lessons in your own life, and you're trying to guide people into the what to do and what not to do in life, and there's only so much you can do. I mean, I one of the things that happened recently was, I had to tell this group of young people that words of wisdom, life advice. There will be a time when you go out into the world, eventually, inevitably, everyone hopefully will fall in love, for example, or you'll have some sort of relationship, and there will be a time when you will get hurt. You will get, you'll be emotionally compromised, or something will happen, or somebody will take advantage of you. It happens to everyone. It happens to all of us. But the life lesson is, and I think this is a life lesson for probably all of us, is that we all know, because we're older, that you have to develop the life skill of not being over emotional about things that you can't control, because we're all human and we can only control ourselves. And so you have to react in a way that is much more stoical than you understand, and that we're all going to go through those sorts of heartbreaks, but the important thing is to remember that you have to do your duty, you have to go to your job, you're going to have to provide for people, and that really, in the end, and this is straight out of Narnia, is that the way that we know when something is love is when we find ourselves in service, when we are serving or giving, or we want selflessly the best for someone, and really when we don't want control. Because I really think that, I know you guys agree with me here, that, and this is what Jadis wants in Narnia. She wants control, she wants power, and I think often, especially with young people, we've all probably gone through this, that when you find yourself in a state of obsession or lust, that is the moment really when you know that it is not, you may have started with love, but it went into obsession, but it's not love. That is power, control, and lust, and that is not good. That's only going to ruin you or hurt other people or hurt yourself. And it's also, as a man, I mean, it's not manly. That's a weak and kind of despicable quality. That's for silly billies. That's for all these silly billies out here. So, really look at Isaiah, send me, right? That's a selfless act. That's whatever happens, I want to do good. I want to do good. And good really is only good that glorifies Christ. So anyway, so that is that's what's been happening. But I will say I was given a very special gift this week. Do you want to see the unboxing? Oh my gosh, you guys, all right, this is an unboxing. Yo, check it out. Unboxing. This is the unboxing. I was given a very special gift this week. This is straight out of my own, I don't even know what to call this. This is very, very special to me because I've talked about this, and it's something that strikes me way down deep. There's something that occurs in Narnia also, by the way, where when Peter returns from killing the wolf, Aslan tells him something, and this is one of those instances where reading, I think, is so important, because just like I was telling the story about the dream that I had in Dreaming of Dreams, there are certain things that I will come across rereading something, and I realize that it is just a sentence from a book that impacted me in a huge way. And one of the, and I don't know how to explain it, but one of those is that Aslan tells Peter to wipe the blade before he sheaths it. And when I read this, when I was 8 years old, I remember exactly where I was. I remember exactly what I remember. It was a sunny day. I was in my sister's room at my house in Richmond, and it was the light was coming in through the windows, and I read this, and I remember reading it and thinking, I know that. I already know that. And I thought that was so cool. It was like, here's Aslan telling me something I know. And I knew that because I've always loved knives. I've always loved a blade. I'm a blade addict, cold steel inside my hand. Cut me in isolation. I've always been a blade collector. I love it. I love blades, not the movie Blade, which most people love. And I love you, and I understand you like the movie Blade. I love that you love the movie Blade. I really do. I'm not being disingenuous. I love it. I love the soundtrack to Blade. Right? Blade walks in, totally technoed out. Techno swag before Matrix. I get it. I love Wesley Snipes. I don't know why I can't get into the movie Blade. I don't know why. I kind of know why, but I don't want to say. But I do love a blade, right? Should I tell you the story about what happened to me last night before I do this unboxing? Let me tell you the story. So I'm going to tell you this story. It doesn't sound as cool coming from me, but there's no other way you're going to hear this. So I felt a little boo-boo, a sting, a bite, whatever you prefer, on my finger here. And I was itching it. I was scratching. Itching, it's weird how itching and scratching are two words for the same thing. I guess that's because of itchy and scratchy. Anyway, so Gen X people know, I guess, itchy and scratchy, right? Anyway, so I was thinking of Ren and Stimpy when I just said that, but that's something different. Anyway, so I felt a little thing and I was scratching it. I said, "Oh, and it's a sting." So it started to really hurt. My finger started swelling up. So what I did was, I thought, you know what? The best thing to do with this is kill it with fire, right? Because thanks to C.S. Lewis. C.S. Lewis was talking about how in his book he was having a correspondence with Warnie about what they should do at their house, Little Lee, after their dad passed away, with all the toys that they had when they were younger. And Lewis responds, they should burn them. And he said, God destroyed the earth with water, and he will destroy it in the end with fire. So maybe we should, that's the best advice. Why don't we destroy our old world? We'll destroy it with fire, right? So they're going to go do that. So I thought, you know what? I should do that to my bite on my finger. So I took this is politically speaking. I didn't actually do this. Just in case for toss. With a lighter, and I just kind of ran it over my finger, and I thought, okay, well, that kind of, maybe that'll get the poison out of my finger. So then I said, okay, you know what? I'll go and I'll get some isopropyl alcohol, medical procedure. I'm not medical. I'm just a person. And I went into the other room and I doused my finger with alcohol. Then I thought, you know what would be a good idea? Why don't I combine the two? So I lit it on fire. My hand went up in a blue flame, and I went, whoa. And I went, fireman. And then I put it underwater and put that out. And all the hair on my hand was gone, on my fingers. And I thought, well, it doesn't hurt anymore. So I'm both the Human Torch and Blade. So that's that story. Anyway, but I don't recommend that. I don't recommend people do that. I don't think that's a good idea for most people. But, I don't feel feelings. Do you feel feelings? Oh, you feel them every day? You feel them every day of your life? Do I seem foolish to you? So anyway, I did that. How did I get on this story? Oh yeah, the blade. Yeah, so I had a so I had a blade, and I would always, wipe it off before I put it in the sheath. Remember what were we reading? Where the blade had to be the blade of the warrior demands, once it is unsheathed, to be quenched with blood. What were we reading when we did that? Was it was it the Viking stream? Maybe the Dragon stream? I don't know. Maybe it was recently, but we read that the blade of the warrior, the sword of the warrior, must be sheathed in blood. It calls out for blood. And so it must be cleaned and pure, put back into its sheath. So anyway, when I read that in Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, when Aslan tells him that, I thought, that's it. So that was a deep lesson for me. Well, going back to the unboxing here, guess what? These books I read in this edition. It wasn't. You can't get these anymore. This is the new edition, and they got the Collier editions. Well, have you seen the 1970 edition? This is it. Look at this beautiful edition. Look at this. Look at this. These are new old. This is a new old edition from eBay. Look at this. Look at this. There's the cover. Now look, never judge a book by its cover. Hogwash. As a lover of books, you can do both. And I think that the artwork on the book is obviously very important. Now, of course, it's the words, but to a youngster like I was, this is it. So this is the Magician's Nephew right here on the cover, and you see how Jade is grabbing her hair, and you see the pools and the wood between the worlds. Well, here it is. Here's the 7-volume edition. Look at these books. They're beautiful. They're uncreased. They came in the full edition. Look at this. Here's book 1. Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. Look at that. Look at them going up to Cair Pavel with the stars in the sky. Look at this edition. God, it's so beautiful. Look at book 2, which is next for us, Prince Caspian. Look at this. Look at Prince Caspian. Look at the giant. Look at it. This is it. This is the one. Oh, this is the one. Oh, this is the one. I'm so excited by these books. This is book 3. This is the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. And I can't even tell you what this book means to me. God, I was terrified by this book. I couldn't even finish it. I couldn't even finish reading this when I was young. And the cover, something on the cover strikes into my deep mind. Look at the Voyage of the Dawn Treader. Look at it. Look at it. Okay, next. We get the Silver Chair. This is the edition that I just read and cover. We're going to do it again. This is the Silver Chair. Remember the band Silver Chair? This is way before that. This is the Silver Chair. Look at him striking the silver chair. Look at it. The lightning is so striking. Ooh, pun. This is The Horse and His Boy. God, I love this book. I read this at Christmas time when I was young. Look at The Horse and His Boy. Look at it. I think I like these books so much. Here's The Magician's Nephew. I think I like these books so much because I really hate the 70s. I mean, I really do. I grew up with that. I got that from my parents. My parents, whenever I told them about when I asked, what was the 70s like? Because I was born in 1980, the greatest year of all time, and to be born, because it's so easy to remember how old you are. And because I grew up, I came right out of the womb being a Reagan youth. I loved Reagan when I was 0. I really hit my peak when I was 5. I mean, I was the most handsome, strongest boy in the whole world. And you know how I know that? Because my mom told me all the time. My dad told me I was the strongest boy in the whole world. My mom told me I was the handsomest boy in the whole world. And I don't know. I don't think you got that. I don't think that's you. That's me because they told me. And I mean, you should have seen my muscles. You should have seen my muscles. My muscles were so big. It was, I mean, look, man, I was jacked. I was hot. I was handsome. My hair was so, I had an 80s bowl cut that was so hot. I was very handsome. And my friends, I mean, you know, when we played in the woods, I was always the one that got all the bad guys. I was. You know, we had code names, we had forts. You know, life was Narnia, basically. And how did I get on that? Oh, yeah, because I hated the 70s. Whenever I asked my parents about that, they would always say the 70s were terrible. And I remember one time I said, the 70s sucked. And they said, don't cuss. And I went, ooh. Because you see, look, you guys, a lot of you guys you're not an old wizard. Okay, so you don't know that things, people didn't suck back in the day. You had to say a thing sucked, right? And then I learned from my grandmother that the term came from when she got in trouble for this when she was young. My grandmother told her school mistress, she told her to go suck an egg. And she got in big trouble for it. And then she put a pin in her teacher's seat. And she sat on it. She sat on a tack. She told me that one time when I was in 4th grade. I was like, awesome. Anyway, so things, you know, you didn't say like you suck. You know, people didn't say that back then. You said a thing sucked. But anyway, I said that and that was bad. I wasn't supposed to say that. But I was told I was allowed to say something stinks, but I couldn't say it sucked. So anyway, but the 70s sucked. Okay. It was all just gaudy, you know, trash or whatever. But the one good thing about the 70s was this book, this book series. And to me, this is like time out of mind, as Shakespeare says. And as Lewis says in The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, he quotes Hamlet. And it's unfortunate because the artist who drew these passed away at age, all right, rest in peace. He passed away at age 36. He was mugged and beaten in Central Park. And then he passed away, which sucks. So he did, before he died, created this one great thing, this work of art, which means so much to me. So this is, and here's the last battle. And so that's my unboxing. That's C.S. Lewis's 7-part Chronicles of Narnia. So from here on out, we'll be going in those. We'll be going from those books. Hey, somebody just dropped me a super chat right there. Thank you so much. Let's look at that. So this is great. I'm so glad to have this. I moved on from this to the Chronicles of the Adventures of Prydain and Lloyd Alexander. We've covered book 1 of that, and we're gonna get to those later on, starting with book 2 of that 5-book series, which is The Black Cauldron, which is Disney's darkest film, but it comes from Lloyd Alexander. So we're gonna get to those. And my big news. You want to hear my big news? Big news. Here's the big news. The big news, big cool thing for us is that Hesher asked me to be. I'm gonna be officially, it's officially a member of Alternate Current Radio, ACR, the Boiler Room Gang, and the Social Rejects Club. So that's great, and that really came out of the blue for me. That's Hesher. Of course, we love Boiler Room. I was a big fan of Boiler Room for years. I listened to them for years. Going way back. You guys, I'm sure a lot of you have been around. You know, you remember listening to Hesher and Spore and Infidel Pharaoh and all the gang ruckus, talking to, you know, Jay and Tristan on Thursday nights. And so then when Hesher asked me to be on there in about 3 years ago, and then I was on TNT Radio for a long time, a bunch of times on there with Jason Burmis and all the great guys that, you know, have been so generous in having me on there. And so we're looking forward to the next thing. And so that is really cool. I'll also be on with John Hears again in June. We'll be doing another podcast, so that will be cool. Go back and watch our first one. So a lot of big things happening. I think of course, will be going on vacation soon. I will be away for a little bit in June for a much needed, beautiful, beautiful holiday, wonderful holiday somewhere. And then when I come back, I'll also be doing. This will be in June. I'll have about a week away in the mountains somewhere where I'll be writing my screenplay Generation. So then when I finish all that, I'll get you guys. I'll clue you guys in on it. And, and who knows what'll happen. Hey, shouts out to Daniel right there. I'm not gonna give your full name just for you. I don't want to dox you on here. So thank you to Daniel. Really appreciate that, man. Big $50. Daniel donates $50 on Venmo. He says, love your wordsmithing. Keep up the great work. Hey, thank you, Daniel. That's awesome. Thank you so much, homeboy. Really appreciate you. Big shouts out to you. Thank you so much. And just, just as a special thank you. I don't know if this will interest you guys. It might not. I shared this on a story, which, an Instagram story is what it is. It's mainly just a chance for me to share music. Whatever. If you like music, you like my music, you can go to Digitalia Regalia on SoundCloud. It's my SoundCloud name. I've got the link way down in the community tabs. If you scroll down there, you can see that. And that's got my Ace of Bazed list and some of my music on there that I like. Not my music. I didn't make it. You can check that out. But just as I shared it on there, and I shared it with some of my friends here, but I thought I would share this because this is two works that I just came up with. So I'm going to share these. This is 2 poems that I wrote, and I'm hoping to put these in the books that I want to get published. I talked about how I helped David Patrick Harry to edit his paper for his PhD. Congratulations once again to Dr. David Patrick Harry, PhD. And so David Patrick Harry is trying to get his book published. Rachel Wilson, our friend Rachel Wilson at Rachel for Patriarchy and also Based Homeschool Mom, is trying to get her second book published. Of course, I helped her look at the Spanish translation of her first book called Feminism. So maybe one day, and hopefully soon, God willing, and if it's in God's providence, then we will have a tripartite pact. The Pact of Steel? That's something else. I'm not going to say who I would be in that triumvirate. But we will have a 3-person book release. Wouldn't that be awesome? I could release my book of poems, Runes, or my future novel, Monarch, the story of a MK Ultra Monarch mind-controlled most dangerous game victim teenager who turns into a serial killer wearing a mask of his own face with mirror shards for eyes, eliminating the people that programmed him. Or my book, West Hampton, which is basically the story of a young Hunter Biden, but it's my own life, or a fictionalized version. Or the screenplay that I'm about to write, which is called Generation. So that would be so awesome. Wouldn't that be awesome? That would be great. Hey, if you know somebody who's a publisher or you know somebody in a publishing house, tell them to reach out to me, please. I don't know how to do. I don't know how to do this. So please help me with that. Anyway, here are 2 poems that I wrote, and yeah, that's what we do here. It's a literary and film. You call them movies. Some call them films. I call them pictures. Channel. So why don't I share this with you? One is a new poem that I just wrote. This is called Spell. Okay, I wrote this for fun after writing Gilgamesh. It's called Spell. Roman names now chiseled. Egyptian forms glyphed. Fascist dukes emblazoned. Greeks get gored and mythed. Akkadian forms seem printed. Babylonian greened and ferned. Indian appellations spoken. Homeric lines that turn. Phoenician sounds form letters, sparked in burning stars. Etruscan etched from fetters, steel, ironic bars. The Druids heaved their sigils, hewn and quarried liths. Gothic names grow spires. The Saxons split plinths. The Byzantines glow gold. The Saracens track dust. Nordic runes grow cold. Atlanteans rust. That spell. Let me read this other one to you. This is called Pugilist at Rest. This is I got the title from a book called The Pugilist at Rest by a guy named Tom Jones. Not the singer Tom Jones, different Tom Jones. Book of short stories. Thanks to my old teacher Gene Bruner, who introduced me to this book in 7th grade. And so I used the title for this. Pugilist at Rest. This is somebody mentioned Gladiator 2, and this actually I wrote this after Gladiator 2. Pugilist at Rest. In the time of plush and plenty, Caracalla and Geta languished Tiberside, held ever so gently, orgiastic maze of arms, bronzed by Vesuvian sun, sexless. Luxury lived 1,000 curls, fruitless boughs, vased and cut, crude-edged, barged here on a trireme. Patricians still stagger somewhere, breathless, tearing slaves with the flagrum, frayed at the coil, faded, shorn to the core. Sulla, Aurelian, Macro, all etched on blackened tombs. Even the chiseled lines of Agrippa's central stone, invisible to a blinded mob with no memory of the memory of words, forms, time. All that's left, a zodiac of stars that pierce a dark veil looming over Olympus pedestal, pushed over. Headless idols mock Gemini twins, opiated, heaving a golden gladio across the throat of any man among them, down-thumbed. So that's it. That is the poem Pugilist at Rest. So that's it, you guys. I think that's going to do it for tonight. If you have any comments, please leave them in the comment section afterwards. If you have anybody that you'd like to have on here, or you want to see me on anybody else's channel, please let them know. Probably on X. I think that'd probably be the best way. I don't have a Twitter. I don't have an X. And that's for specific reasons. But if you want to help me out by recommending me to someone else or to family and friends, a lot of word of mouth has helped me out a lot. And I'm thankful for everybody who's here. I can't believe we have this many people. So thank you to everybody here. High IQ audience. If you're listening to this, you are the resistance. No, if you're listening to this, then thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Love you, of course. And you can support me in all the ways that I've mentioned. Let's see. Just got a Cash App right here. We got a nice Cash App coming in here. Here's our friend Ethan. Thank you so much to Ethan. Really appreciate you, sir. You are wonderful. Ethan sends $10. Says King. You are the king, sir. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you. Thank you to everybody who has donated. Thanks to Block Party Vintage right there for being bueno amigo. Thanks to everybody out there, all the members. I'll be back as soon as I can. And also, don't forget, tomorrow night, I think on Jay's channel, we're going to be doing The Surfer, the Nicolas Cage movie. And we'll be doing that with Jay and Jamie, our good friends. And lots more to come. So listen, is it worth it? Yeah, it's worth it. If you're strong enough. Let's play us out with some Rook G. What does that mean to play us out? Let's play us out. What, like end the show? All right, go. And that'll do it here for us at Bazed Analyzer at YouTube. And can't do it. We do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks. And thanks for being here tonight. Here's Sting on a cut off his new album. Here's Rooks G with The Warning. This is the warning to end the show. Rooks G, go to Rooks G. Please tell him BLA sent you. Love you guys. Make sure you watch all my streams. Watch the last one. Watch the one I did with Baxter and members. Watch The Magician's Nephew. Thank you for doing that, for being here. Give it a like. I'll see you guys next time. I love you. And peace.